Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And whether you're with me live or you're listening on the replay, you're in the right place. This is compassionate conflict resolution is not an oxymoron. So let's take a breath and bring ourselves present. And if you're double tasking, that's fine. I'm just glad you're here because I want to share with you a process that will allow you, if you're in a relationship with conflict, or if you work with individuals or couples in conflict, I'm going to give you a skill set in the next 20 minutes that you can use to make a difference. So, my name is Linda Kroll. I'm an IFS therapist for over 35 years. I'm a mediator and an attorney, and I'm also a Chopra certified teacher of meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda. And I've worked with thousands of individuals and couples, helping them add passion to their marriage or compassion to their divorce. And I've trained hundreds of other professionals around the world in my certification for compassionate mediation. So, what I want to do with you today is tell you how you can bring compassion even in the middle of conflict. And the way we do that is to get to our higher self. So, what does it mean to be in self? Well, in internal family system, what it means is that you create a connection to the parts of you that are calm, clear, compassionate, courageous, curious. And we do that in my first session. And I'm going to do that with you right now. So, what I would like you to do is make sure you can hear me and we'll get started. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. If you can't stay the whole time, I want you to reach me. You can either go to lindakroll.com roadmap and get a roadmap of my process. You can direct message me to talk to me. And if you're in a relationship, you can go to lindakroll.com RA and get a relationship assessment. Because a lot of us are in relationships where we're trying to be compassionate, but we're being codependent. So whether it's a client that you're working with or your own relationship, I'll tell you how I start. And I'm going to start with you. So just for a few minutes, if you think of someone with whom you're having conflict, it could be your partner, it could be a client, it could be a coworker, it could be a child, it could be your parent. Think of someone with whom you have conflict and notice what you're telling yourself. Probably what you're telling yourself is something about them, something that is creating a problem and a story that you keep telling yourself. So you keep telling yourself that they're doing something wrong, or they're being withholding, or they're being judgmental, or they're a narcissist, or they're not fair, or they don't love you, or they don't respect you. And usually the story is all about what they're doing wrong and how bad it's making you feel. Well, first of all, compassion starts with compassion for yourself. Compassion for all the ways you feel hurt, misunderstood, vulnerable, sad, scared, and learning how to be compassionate to yourself, and also forgiving yourself for any decision you've made up until this point or haven't made up until this point. And if you're a professional working with an individual or couple in conflict, a lot of times they come in and they're not only angry at their partner, but they're angry at themselves. They're angry at themselves because they're not allowing themselves to set boundaries, for ask for what they want and need, and to begin to explore what their options are. But you can learn to help them do that. So let's say a client comes into your office for the first time, and I do a lot of things. I do individual counseling, couples counseling, divorce mediation. And when someone comes to see me, I'm not sure why they're coming. But I do the same initial interview with all of them. And it starts with this. I ask them how I can help. So I'm asking you, how can I help? With whom are you having conflict, and how does it make you feel? And then I'll ask you, what does he or she do that bothers you? And what do you do in response? And then when you respond, what do they do to respond to you? And I'm listening for the parts of them that they operate from. Are they withholding? Are they angry? Are they judgmental? Are they sarcastic? What do they show their partner in what is probably a somewhat dysfunctional interaction? And then once I've asked what each of them does, thinks, feels, I'll ask a little bit about the family of origin. And here's why. We are a product of our families of origin. And when our clients, and we know that in our own relationships, we begin to be more compassionate with ourselves and with our partners. Because when I'm asking about the family of origin, I will ask, tell me a little bit about your mother and father. How many siblings did you have? Were there any family secrets? Was there any drinking? And what I'm listening for is, what did they learn in their family of origin? How did they learn to relate? How did they learn to express their feelings? Maybe they didn't. If they grew up in an alcoholic home, they may have been codependent, and that's the relationship they're currently in. If there were family secrets, they may learn not to talk about deep feelings. So they've hidden themselves from their partner this whole time. But you can help them learn a new way to communicate. Because when I ask about the family of origin, I'm listening for those facts. And then I ask the person I'm interviewing to tell me about the family of origin of the person with whom they have conflict. For instance, Jane walked into my office. She had a lot of complaints about John. He was withholding. He got angry. She shut down. They've been living like that for many, many years. And when I was interviewing her and she started to tell me about John's family of origin, she recognized that his father was an alcoholic and his mother was a codependent. And he was one of 5 children and he got lost in the mix. So nowhere in his history did John learn how to communicate. And once she realizes this, she can have a little more compassion for the child that John was, to see how he grew up to be the adult that he is. But the good news is there's hope in learning new habits. So I tell most people that come to me, even if they both want marriage counseling, that their first marriage is over. It's not about fixing it. It's about creating something new based on who they both are now. But many times to people, compassion does seem like an oxymoron in the middle of conflict, because they're so mad that they just want to leave. They're so mad that they want to hurt back. They're so hurt that they go have an affair. So people's parts are all over the place. So I ask all my clients, and I'm going to ask you, what is your word for spiritual? Okay. So think about it a minute. And I'm not talking religion. I'm talking, is it higher power? Is it nature, universe, Buddha, God? What is Allah? What is your word for spiritual? And then when my clients answer, or I'm asking you, where is that energy? And they'll say it's all over, but I'll say it's also in you. So the God outside is also the God inside. That higher power, that feeling that you get in nature of calm, compassion, that's your higher self. So once I've interviewed each member of the couple, if I'm with a couple or if I'm with an individual, like I am with you right now, I'll just ask you. But then I ask the magic wand question. And here's the magic wand question. I ask, if you had a magic wand and you could create whatever outcome you wanted, what would you like to create? So what would you like to create? What would that be for you? Would that be a better marriage, a better relationship? Would that be a divorce or separation? Once I get the magic wand, I know where each party is intending to go. And sometimes I have couples that have different magic wands. In other words, one of them wants to create a new marriage and the other one only wants to get divorced. So what they learn how to do is to create a marriage or a separation or divorce from their higher self. And here's my blurb. Okay, after I've interviewed each of the couple or the individual, I give them my 2-minute blurb. And here it goes. I believe we all have a healthy self, capital S self. And when we're in self, we're calm, clear, and compassionate. You know those moments? They're just moments. We're not always in self. But we have parts that we exile, parts that we manage with, and parts that we get extreme with. And what we're doing is we're understanding that we exile parts that we know aren't getting our needs met. So when we were children, if we were sad, hurt, scared, vulnerable, we didn't want to feel that way because we didn't get positive reinforcement for that. So we exiled them. Some of us exiled our anger too. It wasn't safe to be angry. But this is the ultimate. What about me? Who's going to love and care for me the way I need? So what feelings are you exiling right now? What aren't you talking about? What don't your clients talk about? When they're complaining about the other person, they're really not talking compassionately about the feelings they have for themselves. So you exile certain parts, you manage with certain parts, and you show the world how calm you are or how nice you are, how caretaking, or how working. There's a lot of ways to manage, but a lot of people put on what I call a pseudo self, where you look like you're in self, but you're really carrying a lot of pain and sadness, which you can't contain. So when you're trying to manage, but you can't contain it, you get extreme in some way. Some people eat too much, drink too much, take drugs. Some people get enraged. Some people get depressed, go exercise, go shop. Some people go hire an attorney and say, get me out of here. And these are the extreme parts that tend to numb us, because when we're busy drinking or eating, or some people go have an affair, we can think about that. We can feel guilty about that. And we never have to give compassion to ourselves for the parts of us that are so hurt, sad, and scared. So then I take the story that they told me. Jane, you told me that when you got married, and I'll tell you, Jane and John, you've both done the best you know how to do, but now you can learn a new way. Because Jane, you came from a family where you were the oldest and you were always in charge and you were one of two, so you got a lot of attention and you came in with a lot of expectations of how you wanted to be treated. John came from a different background, and you're both doing the best you know how to do, considering your level of awareness, considering what you've been taught, and we're going to learn how to do better. So if I mention how you trigger each other, how you get angry or withholding or judgmental, or how hurt you are, or how sad you are, or how scared you are, take a breath with me, Jane and John and you, and notice that your body tenses. Because when our parts take over, we constrict. So what I do then with all of my clients is I do a 3-minute meditation to help them get to self. Yes, it's that woo-woo. I actually do a meditation with everyone that comes in my office, even if they both are certain that they want a divorce and they just want to know the facts and they just want to know their options and they just want to know the legal information. We still do the meditation. And if you direct message me, I'll send it to you because I'd love for you to have it. And what it does, it allows you to bring yourself present, surround yourself with calm, compassionate energy, and be compassionate to all the parts of yourself, the parts that are sad and scared and mad and hurt and extreme, and know that you're doing your best. But then in the meditation, I have you walk to a mountain, separate from your parts, and go up in self as high up the mountain as you want. Meaning you're not thinking, you're not judging, you're not reacting, you are just at peace. And from the top of your mountain, notice the person with whom you're having conflict at the top of their mountain. And as much as you can, send compassion in their direction. And that's all in my meditation that I'd be happy to send to you. Just direct message me. So when a client comes in the first session, I do a 15-minute interview with those questions. I put them, if they're coming alone, I do my blurb, I do the meditation. If they come in as a couple, I interview them separately. I explain to both of them how they've been triggering each other. And when they do the self up the mountain, a lot of times they get in touch with how sad they are. They cry their way through it because when you're busy managing, taking care of everybody and being busy, when you aren't managing or getting extreme, you are in touch with the sadness and the pain and the hurt. And learning how to speak for those parts of you is where compassion comes in. So first of all, you're compassionate with yourself. A lot of times couples come in or a client will come in and say, I don't want to be compassionate anymore. I have been compassionate. I have turned the other cheek. I have yada, 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 fill in the blank. You may feel that way sometimes too. It's not about being codependent. And it's not about offering compassion to the other person who isn't offering you anything in return. First, it's being compassionate with yourself. Once again, knowing you've done the best you know how to do, knowing that you have been influenced by your family of origin, noticing that you can learn a new way. And what I offer in that first session is hope. I offer hope that even though it's been a dysfunctional time, people can learn a new way to communicate. So what I do in the second session, and sometimes even in the first session, is teach the miracle of empathy. And the miracle of empathy is very important when you're trying to be compassionate. And here's what it is. Most of the time when people are communicating, they're using a lot of you messages. They're listening to the stories that they've been telling themselves about the other person. And instead of being able to relate from a place of their higher self, they're relating defensively, reactively, judgmentally. They're rationalizing, defending their positions. But when you learn to listen with empathy, you go to the top of that mountain where you're not triggered, where you're listening to the other person with those qualities of self: calm, compassionate, clear, confident, courageous. And you listen from a place where you encourage the person with whom you're having conflict to tell you what their pain is, not their judgment, but their pain. And even if they start out by judging you, you always do this, you never do that, you can listen and say, well, how does that make you feel? I feel that you are a jerk. That's not a feeling, that's a thought. So I ask my clients, even if you believe a thought about that person, they don't love you, they're not caring for you enough, how does it make you feel? And I go, it makes me angry. What else does it make you feel? It makes me frustrated. Well, that's kind of angry. What's underneath the frustration? It makes me resentful. They'll spend a lot of times in anger because often it's easier to stay in anger than it is to acknowledge how sad you are, how much pain you're in. So what we're doing when we help them with this process I'm calling compassionate mediation is we're giving them an opportunity to talk about all of their feelings, even the feelings and the thoughts that they don't want to be in the relationship anymore. That becomes a safe conversation too. Because a lot of times in marriage counseling, you may have noticed, people come and they don't want to talk about the possibility of leaving. And often if they do talk about the possibility of separating or divorce, you may feel that you don't have the skill set for that you have to refer them out to a mediator or an attorney. And sadly, that's not the case. Because in my compassionate mediation certification, I give you all these tools I'm talking about, plus the scripts, the handouts, the videos, the templates, so that you can do everything I've been doing for 35 years, only you put your own spin on it with your own clients in whatever venue you're working in right now. Because as you help your clients learn how to be compassionate, learn the miracle of empathy, where they listen, where they understand, and where they make an amend, it does miracles. Because one I'm sorry can change the trajectory of a family. And it helps when you hold the space in your higher self so that the parts of each person are not triggering each other. So I'm going to give you a brief visual just because I feel like it today. Ready? Here we go. Okay. We all have an inner child, and it could be 2 girls, 2 guys. Just got these 2. We all have an inner child. And in our inner childhood, we were hurt, we were scared, we were sad. And often this is gender-based, but please, it could go either way. Boys try to look cool, put their feelings, don't want to talk about them. And girls, again, sorry for the gender, but it could be either, often codependent. This was my codependent doll. I bought her this way. She looked exhausted when I bought her. She used to be able to say, I love you when you squeeze her stomach. She doesn't anymore. She's too tired. But this is what a lot of times women do, some men too. And we hide our own feelings to try to take care of everybody else, right? We try to take care of our children and our husbands and our work. And we learned by giving, we are doing our job, and we don't learn to ask for what we need. So oftentimes, though, when you're trying to manage and you don't get your needs met, this is what happens. You get mad. And you get mad. Okay. And this is how people come to my office and how they might come to your office and how you might be feeling now in your own relationship. Take a breath. We're going to thank all of our parts because they're all trying to help us. Even the parts that are angry and resentful and yelling, all those parts are trying to protect us. But when we learn to be in self, which is what your job is as a professional, is to help your clients get to self. That's what your job is in your relationship, no matter what your partner does, no matter what your parents do, no matter what your children do, no matter what your coworker does. Get to self and you will be different. And you won't have to react in a way to protect yourself. You won't have to be codependent or try to be cool. And you will learn, there we go. And you will learn how to speak for the parts of you that are hurt, sad, and scared. And then you create something new together. Thich Nhat Hanh, the great spiritual leader, said, to reconcile conflicting parties, we must have the ability to understand the suffering of both sides. If we take sides, it is impossible to do the work of reconciliation. And humans want to take sides. That is why the situation gets worse and worse. Are there people who are still available to both sides? They need not do much. They need only do one thing. Go to one side and tell all about the suffering endured by the other side. And go to the other side and tell all about the suffering endured by this side. That is our chance for peace. That can change the situation. And that is what we do with compassionate mediation. So you can go to lindakroll.com roadmap and get that roadmap and set up a time for a brief chat. Because my certification is going on now, I'd love to have you join me. If you're not in this one, you can wait list for the next one. Because I give you the benefit of my 35 years to offer you a process that provides emotional and spiritual healing, along with legal and financial information and support. And the reason I do that is because when people start to think about getting divorced, guess what? The woman thinks that she is going to become a bag lady, and it could go either way. One party thinks they're going to be poor, and oops, turn her around. She's really scary. Okay. And other parties think they're going to lose their pants. It doesn't have to be that way. This does not have to be your parents are old time divorce where it's adversarial. I work with a lot of people, either individually or together. I work with an individual who comes in who has a narcissistic husband and doesn't know how to get out of it. I'm working with couples where an affair has ruined their marriage, but they still need to learn how to co-parent and forgive each other. It starts with compassion. And it starts with compassion for themselves. I always say that love is the answer, but it starts with loving yourself. And a lot of times when people have been in relationships for a long time, you recognize that they don't love themselves and they have been hard on themselves and judging themselves. And when they're doing that, it's hard to forgive anybody else if they can't forgive themselves. So compassionate conflict resolution can also be an inside job, meaning maybe you have a part that wants to leave, or a part that wants to stay, or a part that still loves your partner, or a part that hates your partner. And you're listening to all these parts and it gets loud inside. But when you get to self, when you practice meditation, journaling, walking in nature, when you give yourself time to heal your own burdens from the past, then you can relate from your heart. So in every session that I give, I am teaching compassionate communication, my version of compassionate communication. And the 4 parts of that are connect to yourself, your highest self, that calm, compassionate awareness, higher consciousness, the God in you, your soul, whatever you want to call it. Connect to that. Let go of those limiting beliefs and judgments. Let go of the stories you're telling yourself and have told yourself. Sometimes I'm with clients that have been married 20 years and they're still holding grudges from their wedding 20 years later. Let go. You don't need those stories, judgments. And expectations, too, are, someone said, are premeditated resentments. So look at where you're still expecting things instead of accepting things. Connect to your best self, let go of your limiting beliefs. 3, unburden pain from your past. We're talking about compassionate communication. You connect to your best self, let go of your limiting beliefs and judgments, unburden pain from the past. This is a big one. A lot of times what's happening in your relationship now is triggering because it reminds you of something that happened in your childhood, in your teens, in your first marriage, in the early part of your marriage. And unburdening that will set you free, because forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. So you forgive yourself, and eventually you'll have more space to forgive someone else. So connect to your best self, let go of your limiting beliefs, unburden pain from the past, and relate from your heart. And that is where the miracles happen, because you learn to have empathy. You learn how to use I messages instead of you messages. You're not judging the other person. Instead, you are telling them how you feel, and you're using those exile words, those words that are sad, scared, hurt. And you're giving them a chance to listen, to understand, and to have empathy, to apologize, to let you know they want to create a new relationship. And you learn to give empathy often before you receive it. And then once you've established that you're understood, heard, and empathized with, you create a negotiation about what needs to happen in the future. And if you're compatible, you create a whole new relationship. If you're not compatible, you can separate, you can divorce, but you can do it compassionately. I have worked with lots of couples that have been in business together, and after they get divorced, still are successful partners in business. I've worked with couples where they travel together to their daughter's college. Sometimes they even stay in the same room if neither one is dating anyone else. They hold parties together and Christmas together and holidays together. They celebrate together even though they're divorced, because they've learned how to be compassionate with themselves and each other. I always say that families need not be broken, but can be peacefully and respectfully restructured, and that we can spare our children from the shrapnel of our animosity. And the reason for compassionate conflict resolution and the compassionate mediation process is because I was sitting in a courtroom with my beloved college sweetheart after 20 years of marriage, and we had a very long separation and a very painful adversarial divorce, because there was no one around many years ago who was doing what I'm doing now, what I want to help you do, which is to provide a forum where people can come in and talk about everything. They talk about what got them in, what they would need to create a new marriage, and we also offer them information about what would it mean to separate or divorce. Because often having the courage to look at an ending allows you to create a new beginning. Because people stay stuck. Excuse me, they stay stuck in, I don't want to stay because it hurts, but I don't want to go because it's too scary. And they just stay stuck and they keep on with their dysfunctional patterns of communication. And it's very dysfunctional for them, for their children, for their families, for their friends. But you can help them learn a new way. They don't have to stay stuck. They truly can either add passion to their marriage or compassion to their divorce. And sometimes when you have the skill set to offer options, what are you going to do about the house? How will you co-parent? What are you doing about your finances? Who's going to be paying what? What are the assets you're going to end up with? Things that they would only think about if they decided on a divorce. Excuse me, in compassionate mediation, you give them all of the information they need so that you can help them process their feelings. And that's what you do when you're practicing compassionate mediation. And if it's your own relationship that you're working on, I'd love to help you too. I have a compassionate mediation program for individuals and couples that gives you everything I give to my individual and couples clients in person. And you can direct message me and learn more. So I want to give you some ways to reach me so that you can find what I'm talking about. If you're a practitioner and want to know how this process works and how it could work for you, go to Roadmap and we can set time for a 15-minute chat where I can give you the benefit of all my training to see how I can help you in any way. If certification feels like an option, we can talk about that too. And then if you're listening for your own worth on your own relationship, you can go to lindakroll.com RA and get the relationship assessment. And then I'm also going to send you to the empathy, because that's where I talk more about how to teach empathy and how to use the Miracle of Empathy handout that I give to my clients. Because I truly want to give you all that I can, including a free chapter of my book at lindakrollbook.com. You get a free chapter which explains the whole self in parts. There's another relationship assessment in there. Because truly, my passion, since, excuse me, I'll take a drink from my love cup. Here's looking at you. Truly, my passion, my whole life, is to help people compassionately communicate with themselves first and then with each other. And after going through a very long, painful divorce, which hurt a lot and lasted a very long time, I sat in the courtroom next to my soon-to-be ex-husband, and I had brought a prayer that I wrote the night before. And if you direct message me, I'll send you the prayer. The prayer said that I pray for a peaceful and respectful settlement in which we come from our highest and best selves, where the parts of us that are hurt and sad and angry and retributive and hopeless and hurting can be quelled with the spirit of our higher self and our calm, compassionate, witnessing awareness. And I pray, and my intention is that we create two separate homes where our children feel comfortable. And for the sake of the love we once had, and hopefully will have forever in a different way, may we settle this with the best interest of all concerned. So as much as we can, we look back and know that we came from our hearts and wish each other well. So that's my goal, is to help people avoid the pain I felt, my children felt, my husband felt, to avoid the loss of families that disconnect and friends that feel like they have to take sides. Compassion goes to everyone. It goes to the parents of the couple who might lose a son or daughter-in-law that has become part of the family. Certainly goes to the children who have to figure out how to divide their love, their time. And it goes to all the friends. And it goes out to the world, because if you and your clients don't heal from conflict, whether it's ongoing conflict in a relationship, whether it's conflict during a separation, during a divorce, or often long past a divorce, where couples who were once married can't be at the same party together, have to avoid each other at family events. That's so sad. It's really tragic. And it doesn't have to be that way. And one more of my little guys is, I love this one. I don't know where I found him, but sometimes when somebody is looking like a bull and just so stubborn and intractable and no compassion whatsoever and just want to be angry, just remember that inside there's a teddy bear that's also hurt, sad, scared. And what you can do in your relationship and what you can do with your clients is to help them learn how to be their best self, how to heal, and how to communicate in a way that fosters healing. Compassionate conflict resolution is not an oxymoron. It's a goal. It's a possibility. It's a skill set that you can learn by working with me, either to learn my process or to let me help you in your relationship. So please, if you want to learn more about the certification, you can also go to lindakroll.com certify and sign up to talk with me about the next cohort that's starting. I've learned a lot in my 35 years, and I've codified it, meaning every introduction that I do, every handout that I've given on the Miracle of Empathy, on self in parts, on getting to self, is in a script template. Excuse me. Sorry. Everything that I've done is in a script, template, handout, manual, video for you to learn. Plus you work with me live. So check it out. direct message me. I'm here to help in any way. And from my heart to yours, I hope you go relax a little bit today and find joy. I just have all my props today, sorry. Find joy in your relationship. Find joy even though you're upset. And I'll just share before I go my spiritual graft, GRAFT. And the reason I'm offering it is because most of the problems in our life are caused by our ego's wounds, meaning our ego has an idea of how things should be, could be, ought to be. We get blaming, judgmental, afraid, resentful. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that way. Try putting this graph, GRAFT, with some spiritual words, and here they are. The G is gratitude. Even if you're in the middle of conflict, be grateful for all that you have, whether it's your home, your children, your assets, the life experiences you've had. Find something to be grateful for. RA, radical acceptance. Yep, radical acceptance, meaning you accept what is. You're not going to change the other person. You can change how you're relating to that person, which will change the dynamics, and then they can choose to change, but you're not going to change them. So radically accept what is. F, forgiveness. Forgive yourself first. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. First, to forgive yourself for choices made or not made. And second, to allow yourself to start over. And then my friend Sark says she's a full cup of love, sharing her overflow with the world. You can be a big cup of forgiveness, sharing your overflow with the people in your life. And the last is trust. Trust the process. Trust your higher self. Trust the help of your therapist or coach or someone who you're working with to guide you in the right direction. So be grateful, radically accept, forgive, and trust that if you don't let your ego take over and you're coming from fear and judgment, and instead come from your higher self, from love, from gratitude, from forgiveness and trust and acceptance, things can change. I hope they can. I'm here to help you. Direct message me, and I look forward to staying connected. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you whenever the time feels right. Goodbye for now. Have a great day. Bye-bye.